There exists a type of creature in this world, discovered by only a few, yet never confirmed to be real. We collectively refer to them as unidentified mysterious animals, or UMA for short. Hello everyone, welcome to the World in 10 Minutes video series. In the field of cryptozoology, the most puzzling subjects are often those captured in blurry or unclear images, their authenticity impossible to verify, their strange and unusual appearances constantly sparking people's imagination and debate. Today, let's talk about a classic topic in speculative zoology, a mysterious creature that once made headlines in the mid-20th century because of a single photo, the Hook Island sea monster. Before we dive into the details, let's watch a short video clip. This clip has probably been seen by many of you online. It's actually from a Japanese word association TV show that aired in May 1989 on the Public Broadcasting Network. The parody video first appeared on a blog called Earth Crack, but since that blog is now inactive, the original source material is no longer verifiable. This parody video was inspired by today's topic, the Hook Island sea monster. According to American author Michael Newton, the story of this sea creature was first published in the March 31, 1965 issue of Everybody's Magazine in Australia. Cryptozoologist Bernard Heuvelmans gave a detailed account of the case in his book In the Wake of Sea Serpents in 1968. Here's what happened. In 1960, French photographer Robert Lasserec and his wife, along with their family, set sail from France on a long-distance voyage. By mid-1964, their boat encountered mechanical failure in the waters near Mackay, Queensland, Australia. They then bought a motorboat and decided to spend 3 months on Hook Island in the Whitsunday Islands. But during their stay, they encountered an enormous and baffling creature. On the morning of December 12, 1964, at around 9 a.m., Lasserec was in the cabin inspecting diving equipment when his wife suddenly screamed, "There's something strange in the water!" Lasserec and his friend Henk de Jong rushed to the deck. At first, Henk thought it was a huge tree trunk, twisted into an S shape and lying motionless in the shallow white sands. But soon, they realized it looked more like a massive tadpole-like creature, a large rounded head attached to a long, flexible body, stretching about 9 meters in total. Lasserec quickly grabbed two 16mm cameras. They circled the creature at a safe distance for half an hour, capturing both photos and video. The creature remained completely still. They noticed a white wound about 1.5 meters long on its side, and its pale eyes, leading them to believe the creature might be dead. They decided to try underwater photography. However, the water was murkier than expected. They had to get within 6 meters to see it clearly. Here's how Lasserec described it. Its head was very large, about 1.2 meters wide and thick. Its jaw was flat, like that of a lizard. Its skin was smooth, like a shark's, with no visible scales. The body was black overall, fading into brown in some areas near the head. Its eyes were almost white. They estimated the full body length to be 23 to 24 meters, with the head alone measuring 2.5 to 3 meters. The mid-body was about 7.5 meters long, narrowing toward the tail. There were no fins, spine, or visible breathing organs. Just as they tried to get closer, the creature suddenly opened its mouth in a threatening way, like a thin moray eel snapping shut, but the body remained mostly still. Its head slowly turned toward them. They quickly took a few more photos and swam back to the boat. Unfortunately, the motor had stopped, and there wasn't enough fuel to escape quickly. Then the monster began to move, gently swaying side to side, stirring up a cloud of sand, and slowly sliding between the reef gaps before vanishing into the open sea. That was the first and last time they saw the creature. Before the film was even developed, Lasserec, his wife, and Henk de Jong kept the story secret. 2 months later, on February 4, 1965, they finally released the account along with the photographs to the media. However, only a few of the original photos were confirmed to have appeared in the magazine. Due to lost files and the complexity of online archives, the rest remain unverified.
In 1967, Robert Lasarek and his wife co-authored a book titled Around the World, in which they detailed their 5-year journey at sea and also mentioned the sea monster incident. However, because the book was never publicly released, only a few preview pages are available today. Speculation about the authenticity of the Hook Island sea monster incident remains highly polarized. When the photos first emerged, they quickly attracted the attention of the cryptozoology community. Lasarek initially contacted American media in hopes of selling the photos for the best possible price. Because of this, the case was first reported to American cryptozoologist Professor Ivan Sanderson. Sanderson then contacted experts from Fawcett Publications to examine the film. Their conclusion was that the photos showed no signs of tampering. That same month, Sanderson reached out to Bernard Heuvelmans and proposed 3 possible explanations for the creature. A military object — the creature might have been a sausage-shaped plastic bag used by the U.S. Navy to tow fuel during experiments; a deflated high-altitude weather balloon — it could have fallen into the sea and become entangled with seaweed, creating the illusion of a strange shape; or a deliberate hoax. A large piece of cloth may have been tied together and dumped into the water to look like a creature. However, Professor Heuvelmans dismissed the first 2 theories. The U.S. Navy confirmed that they had no records of any lost towing equipment near Australia at the time. Even if such equipment had gone missing, it would not have matched the creature's described appearance. The weather balloon theory seemed even less likely. If a balloon exploded in the air, it would have disintegrated before reaching the ocean. Even if it simply deflated and drifted down, it would have eventually torn apart in the sea due to marine life and coral. Heuvelmans believed that the third theory, a staged hoax, was the most plausible. He speculated that perhaps the discovery of a snake-like creature was fabricated and that the appearance was enhanced by adding eyes and rings to make it look more lifelike. In 1.8 meters of shallow water, such effects would be easy to set up. He also suggested the entire shape might have been made from plastic sheets secured under the sand to create the illusion of a sea monster. Overall, Heuvelmans noted that the creature's design was biologically strange. Most vertebrates, especially fish, have eyes on the sides of their heads. Yet the Hook Island creature seemed to have eyes upward-facing eyes. While squids and flatfish also have such eye placements, theirs are positioned much closer to the nose. Most importantly, Heuvelmans had investigated Lasarek's background and discovered that he had significant unpaid debts in France. In 1959, a year before the voyage, he had tried to recruit young people for an expedition, promising that they would earn substantial profits and be well compensated. He even claimed that he had something that would bring in a lot of money, likely referring to the sea serpent story. In addition, Lasarek was reportedly wanted by Interpol at one point for failing to pay for supplies. In short, he had a reputation for being dishonest. Upon returning to France, he was sentenced to 6 months in jail, which cast further doubt on his credibility and led many scholars and media outlets to dismiss the Hook Island sea monster as a hoax based on this background alone. Many people familiar with the story have drawn the same conclusion. However, it's worth noting that this is still just speculation. No hard evidence proves the event was faked. Lasarek never gave any interviews afterward. In 2003, Swedish cryptozoologist Jan Ove Sundberg claimed to have found the then 75-year-old Lasarek living in Asia and said an interview might be arranged, but no further updates were published. Sundberg himself passed away in June 2011 in Motala, Sweden, and no new works of his have been found post-2000. As for Professor Ivan Sanderson, he published an alternate theory in the July 1965 issue of True magazine. He speculated that the creature could have been a giant marbled swamp eel, also known as a marbled anguille or spotted eel, native to the marshes of Central and South America. These eels have long, cylindrical bodies similar to loaches or swamp eels, and the largest confirmed specimens are only about 1.5 meters long. In water, they breathe using gills, and on land, they can use their mouth and throat lining to absorb oxygen. They're nocturnal and feed on frogs, fish, spiders, and insects. Of course, Sanderson acknowledged that while the shape in the photo somewhat matched a giant swamp eel, the size difference was far too extreme for this to be a realistic explanation.
What strikes me as particularly curious is that Professor Bernard Heuvelmans, in his book In the Wake of Sea Serpents, divided sea serpent sightings into 9 categories. One of those categories closely matches the appearance of the Hook Island sea monster, the so-called yellow-bellied sea serpent. Now, this yellow-bellied sea serpent is not the same as the common yellow-bellied sea snake we know today. Instead, it refers to an unknown large sea creature, tadpole-shaped with a striking yellow body, black stripes running along its spine, and horizontal black bands on its sides. It has a massive, flat head and a tapered, elongated body that narrows into a long tail. Its total length is estimated to be 60 to 100 feet. The best-known case representing this category is the Nestor sea monster sighting from 1876. Heuvelmans' classification system is known for being relatively rigorous. When descriptions were too vague or didn't fit existing types, he listed them separately. So in considering whether the Hook Island creature could be a specimen of this unknown sea serpent, I think it's a possibility worth exploring. In fact, in 2013, British paleontologist Darren Naish expressed a similar view on his blog. If the Hook Island sea monster was a hoax, then could Lissarec's inspiration for crafting this giant tadpole creature have come from Heuvelmans' yellow-bellied sea serpent? While In the Wake of Sea Serpents was published in 1968, its French predecessor, Le Grand Serpent de Mer, was actually published in 1965, the same year as the Hook Island sighting. This raises the question, did Lissarec possibly get his hands on an early copy of that book before March 1965? And did the idea of the yellow-bellied sea serpent inspire him to carry out an elaborate hoax? That's something that would require deeper investigation. In my opinion, one of the most troubling aspects of the Hook Island case is the number of photographs. According to Lissarec's own statements, he should have captured plenty of photographic evidence. But in both magazines and newspapers, only a handful of photos were ever published, and none matched the underwater shots he claimed to have taken. This severely undermines the credibility of the account. As for the popular theory circulating online today that the creature was just a school of fish, I find it unconvincing. Accepting that theory requires first accepting the photos as genuine, which would then also mean accepting Lissarec's close-up observations of the creature's specific features. In the end, the truth behind the Hook Island sea monster photos remains unresolved. And maybe what makes this decades-old mystery so captivating isn't the truth itself, but the era it came from. An era with no Photoshop, where any visual anomaly, anything that challenged our understanding of the natural world, could spark global headlines. These evidences reflect humanity's paradoxical mindset toward the unknown, a desire to explain and rationalize the mysterious, paired with a quiet hope that perhaps something beyond reason really does exist. And maybe that's where the true meaning of cryptozoology lies. So as always, the unknown will always be greater than the known. That's the magic of UMA. Thanks for watching this short episode. See you next time.